Hi, I'm Morgan with Prince Morgan Crafts. Today we're going to take some jelly roll strips, some keychain hardware, and turn them into wristlets and lanyards. So, if you don't know, a jelly roll strip is a 2.5 inch wide strip by width of fabric, so roughly 40 inches or so. So, what you're going to do is take your jelly roll strips. Now, I really like this because I bought some jelly rolls that I didn't really care for, um, and I was trying to figure out what to do with them. And so they'd sat in my fabric stash for a while, and I realized that I could make some wristlets and keychains out of them. So, what you'll do is you are going to put them right sides facing. So, if you don't know what that means, it means the pretty sides are touching each other. And so you are going to line all that up. Where it's nice and neat. Okay. And then you are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to be sewing a lot of these today. So I have just loaded my sewing machine with gray thread all the way down in both the bobbin and my top thread. And I am just going to line this up here. So I'm going to lift my presser foot, line that up. Okay. Then okay, so I don't really worry about backstitching here just because where I'm cutting them to length, it doesn't really matter, and I can throw in a stitch at the end before I make the wristlets to make sure it'll all stay in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew straight down. And it is totally okay if your seam is not straight, if it is wonky. It does not matter. If this is your first project, I'm so happy to be doing this with you. Okay. I teach fiber arts at a high school, and what I tell my students all the time is finished is better than perfect. And I also tell myself that all the time. It's really easy to get wrapped up in the perfectionism of crafting, and you don't have to. You can just do it and have fun with it, and if it's less than perfect, that's okay. I always would rather have something functional than perfect. And one of these strips is actually a little less than 2.5, but it'll still work for today. Let's line this up as we go. And remember, you don't have to backstitch with this at all. Okay, so I've done my 1/4 inch seam, and now we're going to press this. Okay, so we're over here at the ironing board in my sewing room, and we are going to get started. So I'm going to angle the camera so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And you're probably wondering why I have this here. I have a gravity-fed iron, and then I also have this little Rowenta that I use. You know, I've been a little afraid to actually use my gravity iron. I don't know. If you have one and you love it, let me know. If not, if you don't love it, tell me why. I'd be really interested in hearing feedback. But I found it at a Habitat for Humanity thrift store, and it was so cheap that I had to take it home, even if it didn't work. It does work, so yay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to press these open. And I just want to get a really really good flat seam right there. Okay. And if you've got some pressing spray like Best Press or Terrio Magic or something like that, you can totally use that. You know, it's up to you. I'm not using it right now. A lot of these that I'm making are going to coworkers as gifts. So, you know, since I'm making so many of them, I'm trying to save myself a few steps and just get this done as quickly as possible. Okay, so now what you're going to do is, so we hide the edges of the seams, right? And we can turn this into our 1-inch strip that we'll need. Is we are going to fold this in and give it a good press. When we do this, the raw edges of the fabric will be on the inside of our wristlet, lanyard, whatever you want to make, and then when we top stitch it, it will secure all of it. So we don't have to worry about that. I tried another way of making these, and of just with one jelly roll strip, and it was really, really sort of not fun because you had to be very, very careful with the top stitching and not get off, because if you did, it would leave where the raw edge could be unfolded. Okay, so once you get all of that pressed all the way down, you will then fold it in half. Okay, and so you get a little 1-inch strip, and then we're gonna go back and top stitch it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I'm gonna finish this, and I'll meet you over at the sewing machine. Okay, so we've pressed everything, we have folded in half, okay, and so we have our little 1-inch strip. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to do the top stitching along each side, okay, and that will hold everything together and put it in place. So I'm going to do a longer top stitch. We're going to try 3.5. I haven't tried that one for these yet. And if you want to color match your thread, you can. I am not worried about it since I'm going to be making so many of these. But you can totally do that if that's what you want to do. So what you'll do is you are going to line it up where you want that to be. And then starts up. Okay, so once you finish top stitching, you should have a strip that looks like this. I know this is different than the one we were working on at the sewing machine. This is one of the other ones I already did. So, what you're going to do is you've top stitched all the way down, and now you're going to measure it. So, for a lanyard, honestly, this pretty much works. I just need to attach my hardware and line it up, okay? But for a wristlet, you want to figure out how big of a wristlet you want. For me, I have large wrists, so I like them to be around 14 inches or so in length. So I'm going to grab my handy dandy ruler. Okay, we've got 12, 14. Grab our handy dandy shears and snip across. Save this for another one, or if you need a shorter lanyard, you could use it for someone else. and then you are going to grab your hardware. Now with the hardware, you can get it on Amazon. The pack I have, I can link it in the description below. The pack I have, there are these handy dandy little pliers that have these rubber ends to make sure you don't scratch up the hardware. I need to find the other hardware that I'm looking for, but what you're going to do is you are going to load it in like this. Okay, this is the way I found it to be easiest. Then take your wristlet and put it in there, and then hold that all in place while you start clamping, and then you're going to clamp down on it. Okay, so you go ahead and do that, and we'll check back in a second. So now you should be done. So now I'm just going to give it a little pull on the hardware of the ones I've made so far, just to make sure they don't slide off. Now, if for some reason you're worried about it coming apart or anything like that, what you can do is you can stitch a little straight line across to just help keep that together and in that hardware. Some people hot glue, it's up to you what you want to do. It's your craft. Do it how you want. So, I hope this is helpful. I hope you enjoyed the process. Thank you again. My name is Morgan from Prince Morgan Crafts. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day.